All right, this is John Colo at DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. And this episode I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be headed into this juice bar here. It's called Press for Juice here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And today I'll be giving a talk for you guys and to all the attendees inside. And today's talk is simply titled The 10 Best Reasons and Top Reasons Why You Guys Should Be Drinking Some Fresh Juice Every Day. I've been looking forward to this talk for a while since, I love to share information about juicing and how juicing has actually changed my life and can also change yours. So anyways, let's go ahead and head inside. I gotta get set up and we'll get into my presentation today at Press for Juice. All right, hello everybody. Hey. How's it going? Right on. All right, so you guys are here for the talk, right? I'm doing a talk on blending tonight. No, just kidding. All right, so my name is John Kohler, and I'm here to talk to you guys today about juicing. I need to give you guys a warning. I do sell juicers, number one. Number two, I have a marketing degree in business management marketing. So that means I'm more effective, hopefully, at selling juicers. But more importantly, number three, I've been actually juicing pretty much for the last 22 years or 21 years now, straight, like almost every day. And I know that the kind of benefits you can get from juicing and including more fresh fruits and vegetables in you guys. So the first thing I want to do before we get into the actual talk, which is the top 10 reasons why I think everybody in the world should be drinking fresh juice every day, is I want to go ahead and just juice actually really quick in two of these machines. And we're going to come back to this later, but I want to show you guys the difference after the juice sits. So the first machine we have over here is called the Omega VRT330. It's a vertical single auger machine. This is a cold press style machine. It runs at a slow RPM, 43 RPMs. Today we are giving a talk in the juice bar, and it's Press for Juice here in Las Vegas. And I'm drinking the number 14, the Bloody Beetroots. This is my favorite juice, and right now and every day during this time is like happy hour, so you guys can get a 10% off discount if you don't make your juices at home, which any way you guys can get your juice in, whether you make it at home, it's gonna be cheaper, or if you're lazy, you don't want to clean up juices and all this stuff, come here and get your juice because you want to be drinking some fresh juice. This is not the same stuff that you'd buy at the grocery store, that's already been pasteurized and all this kind of stuff. You're losing a lot of valuable nutrients, as we'll learn in just a little bit. But that being said, this is a slow juicer that's more akin to a cold pressed juice like they make here. Some juice bars in town, unfortunately, may use high speed machines making the juice, which is like this, and you'll learn about that in a little bit. And the other thing that they may do is they actually may basically HPP, or it's basically cold pasteurize their juice before they sell it to you, and there's pros and cons of that technique as well. Anyways, what I'm going to juice for you guys really quick, I just want to make 2 glasses of juice here, and we're just going to juice some tomatoes. Very simple and easy, so we're going to go ahead and turn this machine on. This is the Breville Juice Fountain Elite, and this is a really popular machine, gets really good reviews online, but it runs at a really high speed RPM, and it tends to oxidize the juice more, as you'll see in the demonstration and as I'll talk about a little bit later. Let's go ahead and turn this baby on. We got it running low speed right now. It goes to high speed, and we're just going to dump in the tomatoes. So what's happening when I put these tomatoes in, there's a little disc on the bottom that is contacting the tomatoes. That's causing the tomatoes to go into the blade, much like a grater disc if you're shredding up carrots. And if I don't hold my hand over the top, it's gonna spray stuff out. So okay, that was about a pound of carrots. Maybe we'll throw in one more. A pound of tomatoes. We'll throw in like one more or 2 more. I'm gonna get a full glass of juice there. All right, I think we're good. So now we're going to go ahead and juice in my favorite juicer. This is actually my personal machine I brought down for you guys today. This is the Omega VRT330. It runs at a low and slow RPM, 43 RPMs. Now the only downside to this machine is the feed chute is not super large. Sometimes you could cram the produce in there. We're just going to cut them in half and drop them in. I do like on this machine it's pretty much auto feeding, so as long as you drop the produce in there, it's just going to get sucked into the machine and it's going to juice up for you, whereas on this machine you pretty much got to use the pusher to juice with. Each juicer has its own set of pros and cons, so as much as I like this machine, you know, I sell a variety of machines and each of them work a little bit differently and each have their own pros and cons. So, you know, some manufacturers will try to tell you guys like, buy our juicer, it's the best. And, you know, in some cases their juicer may be the best for juicing certain things. In other cases, it may not be the best. And so that's why I test and demonstrate all the juicers in my videos online. How many of you guys have seen some of my videos online? So maybe about half of the people. And so I demonstrate like this machine versus this machine, which is actually kind of what we're doing today. I'm doing basically a little bit over a pound of tomatoes in each machine so you guys could see the differences when they juice and more importantly when they sit. Because the reason why I want to do this first is so that you guys could see this at the end of my talk and see what the juices look like at the end of the talk today. All right, so I think we're pretty much done juicing there in both juicers. I mean, so instantly you guys could see a big difference in these juices, right? Which one looks more appetizing to you? Yeah, of course. Yeah, this one just looks like it's deeper, darker, richer, redder pigments, which means more lycopene extracted. This one's kind of like, it's separated. You can see like the water layer and then just the foam / nutrient layer is on this side. It's a huge difference. Unfortunately, you know, most machines that you would go buy down at your local stores, you know, down the way there, big box stores, they're going to sell you these style machines, these high-speed machines. And not to say that these are worthless, because it's doing this to the juice instead of creating a more nutrient-rich juice. You know, drinking a juice that's made like this is still better than drinking a coffee or a soda or, you know, most things that you'd buy like packaged out of the grocery store. Today, you guys are lucky. We're actually giving away a juicer. This is the Quintessential 2-speed juice extractor, and this is a high-speed machine. So I mean, if you already have a juicer, this would make a good gift for somebody. But you know, nonetheless, I always encourage everybody to start juicing whatever juicer you can afford and whatever juicer you will use. You know, this one is a lot faster to use, and it allows you to make juice that you wouldn't have drank otherwise, because you know, you could use juice in 30 seconds to make a glass and clean it up. It takes you under 4 minutes, and this one might take you 6. You know, hey, that's a time savings, and if you're going to do it because you like that style better, and you know, granted, this style juices certain items, you're going to get a higher yield on, say, carrots and celery than maybe this guy a little bit. Maybe with the carrots, maybe not so much the celery, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But what I wanted to get back to, and the reason for the talk today, is the top 10 reasons to drink juice every day. I gave everybody a handout, which is actually an action-packed, information-filled handout, so I do encourage you guys to keep it after this class is over. On the front side, I'll explain what's on here, then we'll go over it. My top 10 reasons here listed, so you guys could take this home and leave the talk now, and you'll know basically everything, but you're not going to get all the extra additional information I'm going to share with you guys today. Over on this side is another very interesting chart I came up with through research of the USDA nutrition database. It's actually a chart that shows the produce item, the serving size, and then in that serving size, how much total fiber is in there, and then how much insoluble and soluble fiber is contained. Because, you know, people just think of fiber is fiber is fiber. There's two kinds. There's a soluble fiber, and that's the kind that why doctors say you need to eat oatmeal, and then there's the and that's the soluble fiber dissolves in water, and then there's the insoluble, and that's like the, you know, the roughage that kind of like keeps us clean. And then in each produce item, you'll see like a percentage of the soluble fiber in each produce item. And we'll go over this all later in detail. And then on the back, there's a few graphs that you'll be able to see. And it basically goes over like a high-speed machine, a slow machine, and a blender. And when they process broccoli through all these methods, what were the total polyphenols or antioxidants and things like that in the juice. And then the next step is actually taking this juice and actually giving it testing in the lab. So they tested it for antioxidant or free radical scavenging activity, and you can see which one had more scavenging effects against different two kinds of free radicals. And then over on this side of the chart, there's actually something that's really important to me is anti-cancer activity of juices made in a high speed, a low speed, or a blender. And then finally I talk about some of the different types of juicers that we'll go over at the end of this presentation today. And then I have some special prices on demonstration juicers for those of you guys that are interested in buying a juicer today from me. So first, let's get into the top 10 reasons to drink juice every day. How many people in here are currently drinking juice every day? No, maybe 25%. I drink juice every day. Today's juice was actually sugar cane, lemon, and ginger. That was amazing. It took me like an hour and a half to make. It's a process. I got to wash the cane and all this stuff. And then yesterday's juice was pineapple, orange, and pomegranate. The day before that was cactus fruit, coconut. So that was cactus fruit coconut milk. And then the day before that was cantaloupe. So as you guys can see, I'm like rotating what I'm drinking every day. And this is kind of based on what I have ripe or that I need to use in my kitchen before it goes bad. Plus, it's, you know, what haven't I drunk recently? So I might start back over with cantaloupe because I got some more cantaloupes. But anyways, these are like my reasons for juicing, and there's definitely many reasons for juicing, and these are the ones that I think are the most important. I mean, you may have heard that juicing can help you detox, and they can help you lose weight, and you could have more energy, and all those are true things in my opinion, but these are like really the reasons why I juice every day to get some of the most important benefits to me. Okay, so number one, it's to increase the amount of the healthiest foods on the planet. What are the healthiest foods on the planet? They are the fresh fruits and the fresh vegetables. These are the healthiest foods on the planet, and unfortunately, most Americans do not get enough fruits and vegetables. They're eating too much fast food, too much junk food, too much processed food, all these white foods. Once you start refining foods, you process nutrition out of it. And most Americans do not eat the recommended servings of 5 to 9 servings of fresh fruits and vegetables a day. And that is nothing in my opinion. I mean, oh, 9 servings, that's almost 10, that's a lot. Well, check this out, right? In one of these juices that you would buy here, 16 ounces of juice, right, on average, this contains approximately 2 pounds of produce. So if this was a carrot juice, 100% carrot juice, and we use 2 pounds of carrots in here, it would make about 16 ounces of juice. This would be 11 servings of produce. You would easily exceed the 9 servings, 5 to 9 servings, double it, of recommended fruits and vegetables a day in carrots. Now, of course, I encourage you guys to eat more things than just carrots, but hey, carrots are still way better than most other foods that people would be eating. So just with one 16-ounce juice, 2 pounds of carrots that you can get for as little as, I don't know, 50 cents at the grocery store, you could now exceed your recommended daily allowance in a juice, because juicing, what it does, it concentrates the volume of the fruit or vegetable in a glass. So that, you know, this is 2 pounds, as you guys saw. I just juiced about a little bit over a pound of tomatoes to get the juice right here. Now a pound of tomatoes now is it's probably about 12 ounces of juice or so in the glass, and I could drink that and get the nutrition out of a pound. And I could just sit here and eat I could eat 5 pounds of tomatoes. I could probably sit here and eat 2 pounds of carrots if I wanted to. But who's going to eat 2 pounds of carrots? But I'll easily drink, 48 ounces of carrot juice. Now I got 4 pounds of carrots in me. So that's number one. This is not going to happen if you're just simply blending. If you're simply blending and putting in 2 pounds of carrots in the blender, you're going to get 2 pounds of carrot mush, or carrot baby food, as I like to call it. And there's other reasons why blending is maybe not the best that we'll go into in a little bit.
But you're not getting the fiber.
Well, we'll cover that one. So if you have any questions, please save your questions to the end of this talk. I'll be sure to cover everything for sure. Okay. The second reason for drinking fresh juices is, especially living here in Las Vegas, Nevada, hydration, right? Hopefully you guys all know that here in Las Vegas they put chlorine and they put fluoride and who knows what other kind of contaminants are in the water, so you could be drinking some purified water. Hopefully you got a good filtration system to do that, and hopefully you're not still buying bottled water in the plastic bottles that then hopefully get recycled and sometimes don't get recycled and they just pollute the earth. The better use and the best water, in my opinion, is the water that's filtered by plants. plants. These tomatoes here have basically taken up water from the ground. It went through the root system of the plants. It went through all the little cells in the plants, and the whole plant filtered out this water to make it one of the purest waters on the planet. I would go so far as to say it's more of a structured water, and besides the fact that you're getting hydrated with a good structured water, the water also contains a plethora of vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals that we'll be talking about. So yeah, so instead of drinking like tap water from Vegas that's even filtered, I'd rather drink like a cucumber celery juice in the morning for my hydration, because it's like serving more than one purpose. Number 3 reason why you should be juicing every day is because it makes the nutrients more bioavailable. As you guys could see, no longer is the tomatoes that I ran through the juicer tomatoes, but we got literally the liquid part of the tomato, I guess more so in this one, where it's mostly, as you guys can see, water, and in this one it's like really deep and rich. But basically it breaks open the fibrous cell walls of the tomato. This, especially in the tomato skin, you guys may have seen this before. You guys eat a tomato skin, and then whenever it comes out the other end of you guys, you'll see the tomato skin. Tomato skins are pretty much non-digestible for us, but the inside of the tomato we can digest. But when you juice the tomato skin, that's unlocking the fibers. You're gonna get some of the nutrients from the tomato skin into that juice that is now in a digestible form. This is a much more important in something like carrots, where especially if you don't chew the carrots well, you see particles coming out you the other side, or even with kale and collard greens and some of the greens, the juicer really busts open those cell walls to make the nutrients more available for us. That's very important. And this is especially important if people don't chew their food enough, if they're elderly or maybe babies, right? That's why I like to make sure they get enough nutrients from the juice as well. Another thing about juicing, especially because we are here in the Christmas season, holiday season, is digestion. Juices are one of the easiest things on the planet to digest because you're removing all the fiber. Especially if you guys have colitis or Crohn's or some other kind of irritable bowel syndrome, right? I have a friend that helps heal people with these diseases, and he puts them on a juice diet because their bodies cannot handle the fiber at all. It'll violently react. Their bodies will violently react if they have fiber, the insoluble fiber. But because we're removing the fiber, it can be absorbed easily by the villi in our intestines within 15 minutes. So the villi in our intestines, I kind of like to describe it as like nose hairs. Like in our intestines, there's like these little things with little hairs, and as nutrients swim by or float by, these little villi basically suck up the nutrients out of only liquids, things in a liquid state. If it's in a solid, it passes right by the villi, it doesn't do any good, and then it basically goes out the other end. So we're literally taking all the nutrients and putting it into a liquid state so we can't absorb it. Talking about taking energy from you for digestion with the holiday meal. So whether you guys just had a Thanksgiving and where you're gonna have Christmas soon and big holiday turkey and whatever else y'all are gonna eat, you get to eat all that food, and then right after you're done eating, you might get tired, right? Maybe some people just had dinner tonight and they're kind of like a little bit tired because they just ate. And your body has to use incredible amounts of energy to basically digest or break down the food you just ate to turn that into more energy for you. So because your body is using all this energy to digest your food, you don't have as much energy for your body to do repair and healing, or go out and ride bicycles, or go running, or go hiking, or whatever you want to do. And because the juicing is the easiest, it's going to preserve more energy for your body to do other things like healing if you're in some kind of a situation you need to heal. Now, number 5 reason why drinking fresh juice is very important is because you're going to increase the amount of soluble fiber in your diet. Somebody earlier said, wait, juicing, you don't get any fiber, right? Well, that's not entirely accurate. I mean, you could see here, the juicer spit out this much fiber when we're juicing the tomatoes, plus there's probably some left over inside the machine. But what it's ejecting there, for the most part, is the insoluble fiber. This is the hard fiber. What it did keep, though, is the soluble fiber, since there's 2 kinds of fiber in plant foods. And that's the point of the chart on this side. I've researched all this, and you guys can look at it. Basically, my column headings are a little bit off, so you got to rotate it to the right a little bit. But basically, you got the item name. So the first one is, say for instance is kohlrabi, and the size is 1 cup. This is what was tested. The total fiber in kohlrabi is 4.9 grams total. And then of the 4.9 grams, 1.5 is soluble fiber. Oh wait, let's see here. Yeah, 1.5 is the insoluble fiber, sorry. And then 3.4 grams is the soluble fiber. So the percentage of soluble fiber overall, which is 3.4 over 4.9 or whatever, if you did all the math, it's 69.39% soluble fiber in the kohlrabi. So if I was to take a kohlrabi and juice it, how much soluble fiber would I have approximately in my glass right there? 69%, because that's the amount of soluble fiber, provided the juicer is efficient at getting all the soluble fiber. I'm sure some is coming out here, but it's not going to be a lot. We're going to get most of the soluble fiber in there. All right, go down to something like carrots, a common juice people make. You know, if we just go to the end, the percentage of soluble fiber is 48% soluble fiber. So even in carrots, if you're juicing them, you're still getting half of the fiber in the glass. The other half's coming out here. Now, am I saying we should live on a juice diet? We don't ever need the insoluble fiber? No. You know, I like to juice once a day, and then the other times of my day, I eat plenty of foods with fiber. You know, even drinking this tomato juice for people that are eating in McDonald's, eating, you know, chicken, hamburgers, and processed foods, and, you know, a shake. This is more fiber in here than what they're getting from a hamburger. You know, just the hamburger patty alone, or any dairy products or eggs. All those animal product foods have 0 fiber. So that's really important to know. And, you know, I could talk more about this later, but, you know, I think that I did actually on the list, which is really cool. If you look down, actually in the middle of the list, I actually put oatmeal. So oatmeal is known for its soluble fiber, and that's one of the reasons why it could help, you know, clean out your arteries and all these different things. And if you look at oatmeal, oatmeal is 47% soluble fiber. So when juicing, anything above the oatmeal is going to have, even the carrots has more soluble fiber than the oatmeal. And it's the soluble fiber that may help with slowing down the absorption of sugars into your bloodstream. Soluble fiber also does many other things in your body. So it's quite beneficial. And there's lots of research, you know, on this. So yeah, you're still getting some fiber. Now, of course, if you're juicing tomatoes like I did tonight, right? Check out tomatoes. Tomatoes is only 10% soluble fiber. So this is the extreme other end of the list, where I'm losing most of the fiber in this tomato juice. I mean, another one that was very interesting to me was pineapple. You know, that's another one that doesn't have a whole lot of soluble fiber in it. Now, if we go to one of my favorite fruits, cactus fruits, which I like to juice regularly, I don't know the percentage because it wasn't on the list or in the database, but I'm confident that that has lots of soluble fiber in there, because when it comes out, it's like really thick and gelatinous, and that's the soluble fiber in there. If you need to get more soluble fiber and you're concerned about it and that you're not getting enough, or you want some additional fiber in your juices, I do recommend, you know, adding something like ground up flax seeds in your juice to get soluble and also insoluble fiber in your juices. I don't like to do that because I just like to eat that at other times of the day. Number 6, this is probably a really important reason for you guys to drink juice, is because it'll allow you to supersize the micronutrients in the juice. Unfortunately, in our society, we're often taught about the macronutrients, which is proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. And nobody except maybe Dr. Joel Fuhrman and maybe a few other docs talk about the micronutrients, right? People are worried about their, you know, 80-10-10 ratios and all these different ratios. And to me, that's not really that important. What we really want to focus on are the micronutrients, the things that really allow us to be healthy. Those things help fuel our body and are absolutely necessary for our health, but the micronutrients are even more important. Things like the vitamins, of course, the minerals, but more importantly, it's these beneficial phytochemicals and phytonutrients. You know, big words that you might know as chlorophyll. That's the green pigment color in leafy greens. The lycopene in the tomatoes, also in the watermelons. They could be the lutein and zeaxanthin in the things like kale and collard greens. And oh, one of my favorite new ones that I like to include in my diet like every day is the anthocyanins. And that's why that's why I chose to drink this juice right here. It's purple. It have or deep red purple color. That's the anthocyanins. So there's a lot of research coming out on these purple pigments. They can also be in things like those black tomatoes you guys go to buy at the store. Purple carrots, they're in beets, blueberries, blackberries, the skin of eggplant, even in like the black rice that's colored with the color purple, or these anthocyanins. And in this chemical, or this plant chemical, they've done studies where they feed mice, which I don't agree with necessarily testing on mice, but they've done this nonetheless. They fed mice basically the equivalent of a standard American diet. They fed the mice junk food, and they fed them water with actually high fructose corn syrup in the water, so that would simulate drinking soda. So they fed the mice this crappy diet. The mice gain weight, and that was really sad for the mice. I don't like harm to come to any creatures, so I encourage you guys to feed your pets. If you guys have pets, feed them well, feed them whole plant foods and other whole foods. So anyways, these mice got fat, and then they noted this, and then one half of the mice, they kept feeding the same food, the crappy food that like most Americans are eating. The other half, they fed the same crappy food, but they also gave them purple carrot juice that's fresh made. And just with only the addition of the purple carrot juice, besides starting to lose weight, these mice also cleaned out their arteries, also got rid of their diabetes or their blood sugar issues. So I mean, it's amazing. Even if I'm not saying you guys should go out and eat McDonald's and drink purple carrot juice, but what I am saying is that we want to just drink the purple carrot juice so we could clean out our arteries, be a healthy weight without all the junk food, which we know is bad, right? And that's why I like really to focus on a lot of colorful foods. I'm not often juicing white cauliflower. I'm often picking the most vibrant colored foods that I can to juice. One of my favorites is the purple carrots. And actually where I like to get that is actually either at Sprouts Farmers Market or Trader Joe's. You could buy a bag of rainbow carrots, and when I go there to buy them, I'll look through the bags of rainbow carrots and I'll find the bag on the display that has the most purple carrots in there. So hopefully y'all don't live in this side of town, so the stores I go to are gonna not have as many of those anymore. So sometimes I'll find ones with it's a 2-pound bag for like $2, and I'll find ones with 80% purple carrots in there, and that's what I really live for. So I try to include this in my juice every day. Otherwise, today I got organic blueberries for $1 at the dollar store, another great purple food. But yeah, so every different phytonutrient, whatever the name, chlorophyll can help cleanse your blood. The beta carotenes and the carrot juice, good for your eyes. The lutein, zeaxanthin, another thing that's actually really good for your eyes. And they have a lot of research on all these things. I don't like to be the genius that knows what this is good for this. I just like to know that all these things are good for me, and are going to be getting me into my body, and my body figure out what they want to do with them. Because if you're shorting yourself of these phytonutrients, something might happen to you. Like my uncle actually 2 weeks ago, he lost his life of colon cancer, and that's not a fun thing. My mom actually had to fly over to Hawaii. I had to book her a ticket in 2 days. Unfortunately, he lost his life the day before she got there. And I stayed at his house a few times, and he just basically ate a standard American diet, really rich in meat. And not to say that you guys need to not eat meat, but if you guys want to eat meat, eat less than 10% of your calories from meat, and the other 90% of your calories should be things like fresh juices, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, and whole plant foods. Then you could actually not do the damage from the meat by eating that low amount. Of course, I would just prefer to exclude the meat completely, because it's not necessary in our diets. Okay, so number 7 reason why I think everybody should drink juice every day is because it's lower in calories compared to standard American foods, right? Some juices, carrot juice, yeah, that might have some sugar in it, might be calorically rich, but it's still lower than hamburgers, cheeseburgers, anything that with processed sugars in it, processed fats. All these have enormous amounts of calories, and one of the things for losing weight is to eat low calories. And that's something that's relatively widely known. But what is also not known is, along with the low calories you're getting from the juice, you're also getting all those other things we talked about, those phytochemicals and phytonutrients that could actually help shed the weight off. And that's why one of my meals in the day generally is the fresh juice. What I like to do in the morning when I wake up is I drink usually coconut water or water, and that's my what people would call breakfast right when I get up, because just sleeping here in Las Vegas overnight is dehydrating. Usually before I go to bed I also drink some water. But anyways, when I'm sleeping, I've been basically fasting. I've been abstaining from all foods for the time I'm sleeping, whether that's 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever. And when I wake up and people would normally eat breakfast, you're breaking your fast. So instead of eating like a heavy, I don't know, hash browns and bacon and orange juice like most people do, I just drink water to extend the amount of time that I'm fasting. And then furthermore, when I get hungry finally, and I try not to eat until actually I feel hungry, then that's when I'm gonna make my first juice of the day, which is still kind of like, I'm still fasting because it's still pretty much liquids, and it's gonna be the easiest thing for my body to digest. So this is gonna give me more energy to do things that I need to do in my day, or my body has more energy to do more healing and repair before I start eating my 2 later meals of the day for lunch and for dinner. Okay, so the 8th reason why you should be drinking fresh juice every day is because it preserves more nutrients than blending. And that's where we get into the charts that I'll explain on the back now. In the top corner here, there's a little chart. It says total polyphenols and flavonoid contents, and they tested this, and this is a published study over in Korea. They tested the kuvings slow juicer, so a juicer similar to this one. They tested a high-speed juicer, centrifugal juicer similar to this one, and then they used a blender to blend the same broccoli, and then they measured the amount of polyphenols and flavonoids in the juice, or in the mixture. And as you guys could see, for the slow juicer, it was the most, and for the centrifugal ejection and the blender, it was maybe about half as much. And I'm not saying juicing is always better than blending, but I will say that slow juicing is better than blending. Now, the reason why I think both the blender and the centrifugal or high-speed machine showed lower polyphenol and flavonoid content is because of the aeration that is occurring in the juicer. The juicer is spinning around, it's injecting air, as you guys can see in this. And when you're blending, people don't realize you're blending. If you ever look into the blender, if you look down the middle of the blender, there's like this little vortex. It looks like one of those tornadoes that hits Kansas and they rip up Walmarts and take houses up. And just like it was in Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz that was on TV the other night, it rips up houses and throws things and splatters them all over. Well, hey, that's happening inside your blender craft when you're blending. It's got that vortex, and it's basically blowing open all the cells in the tomatoes or whatever else you're blending inside out, so it makes it more bioavailable. But at the same time, same thing with the high-speed machine, it's basically shoving in and pushing oxygen into those nutrients, and then they break down. And that's what this graph shows through a published scientific study. So how does this affect you once you would maybe eat or drink the blended mixture or a high-speed juice or a low-speed juice? Well, that's why we got the next 2 charts. So the one on the corner bottom here, this actually shows the antioxidant activity and free radical scavenging effects of these particular juices. So as you guys can see, the blender actually had no scavenging effects against the DPPH radical, which I have no idea what that is. And the high-speed juicer had minimal effects against that free radical. Meanwhile, all 3 pretty much had some good effects against the ABTS free radical. But as you guys can see, even the high-speed juicer had better effects than the blender. But then overall, the slow juicer had the most antioxidant free radical scavenging effects based on all of them. So that would include a slow juicer like this, or one of the cold pressed juices here. So that's really the difference between a cold pressed juice and a high speed juice, is you're going to actually have more active free radical, more antioxidant activity and more free radical scavenging effects. Now, how does this translate to us? This basically translates, I guess in simple terminology, into better anti-aging properties. We have free radical damage occurring within our body systems just because we're breathing and living, and we want to squelch this all this free radical damage, because that's basically known as aging. So you're going to age less if you drink a slow juice versus a fast juice or a high-speed juice. That being said, even a high-speed juice, once again, you're going to still age slower than by eating McDonald's and all the other processed foods and animal products and junk out there. Now, what's really most important to me about all these this published studies that's been tested is this last slide on the top here. It's the anti-cancer activity of the juices that they made. So once again, they use the slow juicer, the centrifugal juicer, and the blender. And that's actually labeled A, B, and C. The A is the slow juicer, the B is the high-speed machine, and the C is the blender. So pretty much not all the cases, except maybe one, but the blender fared worse with anti-cancer activity than the other methods. That being said, the slow juicer had the most anti-cancer activity of them all. And so except for the HAPG2, actually, for some reason, the high-speed juice was a little bit better, but not significantly. But on the other categories, pretty much the other two methods had much lower anti-cancer activity. So, I wish my uncle, and hopefully my uncles that are still alive, would do the slow juicer, and things like carrots. Carrots are anti-cancer. Things like apple, they're anti-cancer. Of course, things like kale and collard greens and bok choy, anti-cancer. Things like garlic and onions, also proven and shown to be anti-cancer. And so now we got the anti-cancer properties of these foods put through a juicer that's going to give you the best benefit of these anti-cancer nutrients without breaking them down before they get into you. And you could literally disease-proof yourself, as one of the people I look up to, Dr. Joel Fuhrman, says. So yeah, that's a really important, the functional test of these juices and what the differences, provide. So that's why juicing, in my opinion, is better than blending, because you're going to basically get better results in the end. That being said, I'm not going to say blending's bad. I'm going to say that if you're going to blend and you wouldn't juice, that's a good thing, right? I'd rather have somebody drink a blended smoothie they made at home than have their Nespresso coffee in the morning. It's gonna be way healthier for them. That being said, doing a slow juicer is what I do. That'd be the best. And I just want to let people know that people have options. You all have options, and do whatever you want to do, whatever you see fit. But having the knowledge and the information about maybe a better course of action to take, I think, is what I like to share with people, because I've researched this for myself, because I almost lost my life when I was younger due to spinal meningitis, which was caused by, the doctor said, a complement immune deficiency, which is basically a chronically weak immune system. So for the last 20 plus years now, I've actually had to live my life and always ask myself the question, John, how can you build your immune system? How can you have better disease protection than the next guy? Because you're already maybe starting at a deficit in your immune system. Well, luckily since then I found out that the reason why my immune system was maybe defective or not working properly was because I was on a poor diet. I was eating the standard American diet without red meat and maybe reading my ingredient labels like many people think they do and think they're eating healthy, but it still wasn't good enough. I really need to flood my body with these anti-disease phytochemicals and phytonutrients. So that's simply what I've been doing now since 1995. All right. Oh, and then let's see. So number 9 reason why I believe everybody should juice is because I think everybody kind of has vegetables and foods that they eat regularly in their life. I know growing up, I know what my dad would eat for breakfast every morning, because I would wake up to the smell of this, and to this day, thank God nobody in my house makes this every day because I'd go crazy. It's burnt coffee and toast. No, I'm sorry, coffee and burnt toast. I would just wake up to smell of coffee and burnt toast, and he'd eat that every day. And unfortunately, people are creatures of habit. Every day you might have a banana and an orange for breakfast, and that's great. Hey, there's good nutrients in bananas and orange, but hey, there's other good nutrients in apples and pears and persimmons and black zapotes and papayas and all this stuff. And so I think expanding the diversity of the fruits and vegetables you guys eat is essential for good health, because in certain vegetables there may be this anti-cancer nutrient, and in this vegetable there may be an anti-obesity, or this certain fruit or vegetable there may be an anti-obesity nutrient, and who knows? They've done a lot of research on fruits and vegetables, but a lot of the research is out. They still haven't done it yet, so why wait for the research to come out? Because we know these fruits and vegetables have amazing different nutrients in them that we should be able to access. So by juicing, you could get some of these different things in you that you might not normally eat because you don't like to eat Brussels sprouts, for example. But hey, if you juice some Brussels sprouts, put it in there, a few Brussels sprouts with like a pineapple, you could have a pineapple Brussels sprout juice. And I swear you're pretty much not going to taste the Brussels sprouts in there. I mean, don't make it all Brussels sprouts and a little pineapple, make it a lot of pineapple and a little Brussels sprouts, right? This pretty much works on all greens except for dandelions, right? You put a lot of pineapple juice and a little bit of dandelions, it'll still taste like crap. I know because I've done it. So, but nonetheless, you guys could see that you can now easily juice things that you wouldn't normally. I mean, another really nutritious thing that you guys are probably not eating are the rind of cantaloupes. Now, you want to make sure you guys wash them well because there could be bacteria in the rinds or the outer skin of the cantaloupes. And also, I encourage you guys to buy organic cantaloupes. But there's a lot of nutrients in the skin. People know, common knowledge, that there's more nutrients in the skin or near the skin of the fruit or vegetable, but most people don't eat the rind of the cantaloupes, but literally you could juice these rinds. The juicer will extract some of the nutrition from the rind, but mostly you're getting the inner flesh, so it's still gonna be a sweet juice. One of my favorite juices my girlfriend loves is, she loves to juice the rind of the watermelon. Now when you're juicing the rind of the watermelon, you're gonna get extra chlorophyll in there that you wouldn't have got if you didn't juice the rind as well. I mean, a lot of you guys may not eat the watermelon seeds. When you juice the watermelon seeds, depending on the juicer you're using, the juicer will crack the seed open and extract some of the nutrition from the seed and put that into your juice. And there's a lot of different nutrients in some of the different seeds that people don't normally eat, so I like that I get some further nutrition that I might not be getting from the juices. So yeah, increasing your diversity, that's a huge one. All right, so the last reason why you should drink fresh juice every day, in my opinion, is it'll positively impact your microbiome. How many people have heard about your microbiome? So a few people. So your microbiome is basically, they've done research, and the studies are in that say we are actually more bacteria than we are human. We have more bacteria living within us, on us, than actually human cells. And they are an essential part of us functioning. And this is why this part is important. This is why you should get something like the press for juice here, or something that you make fresh at home, and not one of those juices from that you could even buy HPP cold press juice at Walmart, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, or even some juice bars in town. They'll sell you HPP juice, but what they don't tell you is when they HPP the juice, which is they're using high pressure to basically sterilize the juice so it has a shelf life, they're killing all the microbiome, all the beneficial microbes, and also bad microbes in there. My dad taught me from a young age that there's good bacteria and there's bad bacteria. Most of the bacteria is good. It's the bad bacteria we got to worry about. But meanwhile, we have this just whole overall bacteria phobia in our society. And they've done studies with kids where kids use hand sanitizers, and they don't let their kids crawl on the floor, and these kids have weak immune systems, whereas the kids that don't use the hand sanitizers, crawl on the floors, go out and play in the dirt, they have strong immune systems. So we've grown up, and our bodies have become accustomed to living with this microbial rich society. Only when man gets involved, I think we imbalance some of the microbes, and then sometimes we could favor the bad bacteria. But the bad bacteria is not coming from plants. You can't get bad bacteria from a tomato because plants and animals cannot share diseases. But you can get diseases from animals. We can't get diseases from, chickens, from cows, from dogs, because animals can share diseases. So how does cantaloupes basically spread E. coli, or spinach, have an E. coli outbreak? And that's because the spinach basically gets contaminated with animal manures in its growing, or maybe bird droppings as birds were flying by and they pooped on it or whatever. That's why there's outbreaks with the produce, provided you're using safe produce. Even like cabbage is going to have bacteria living on it, and that's how you guys make sauerkraut. If you guys make sauerkraut, you just chop up the cabbage, mash it down with a masher, it basically gets the juice, and then there's bacteria living on the plants that then basically come to life when you create a good environment, maybe with some salt, and you got to take out the air. They just come to life, and they basically start to multiply, and when we eat these bacteria, they basically colonize and live within us. And our microbiome in our intestines are very important. They compose part of our immune system. Also, they help us digest our food, and this is very huge. The microbiome could help to in our systems could help to detoxify things like the oxalic acid in spinach, I've learned. They also make secondary metabolites. Once they digest their fiber, they could put out, very powerful antioxidants for us. I mean, there's even research that shows, like, if you have certain bacteria in you, you're more likely to be thin instead of overweight. And there's other bacteria that is a mood enhancing bacteria that you may feel happier if you have this bacteria in you. So that's why it's super critical to have this bacteria. Now, furthermore, they've done further studies besides just the beneficial bacteria you're going to get by drinking the juice. In the juice, some of the phytochemicals and phytonutrients they've researched feed some of the certain microbiome in your gut, and it allows them to proliferate. So for example, the phytonutrients in the fruit and vegetable juices allow the beneficial bacteria to basically take over and thrive in your gut, but meanwhile, it'll basically crowd out the bad bacteria when the good bacteria is thriving. So that's another thing that's not commonly known of. So yeah, those are my 10 reasons I think you guys should juice every day. I mean, to me, it's just, juicing is about health. And it's about doing something that's really opposite of what standard American diet, what animal products are doing to you, causing massive degeneration. This is going to cause a health building, in my opinion. I guess the last part of this talk I want to share with you guys today is the different types of juicers, since that's very important if you guys are interested in buying a juicer. Once again, this is a high-speed machine. This is actually the Breville Juice Fountain Elite. Even though it's all stainless steel, as you guys can see, it runs at a high speed. And the juice has been sitting here the whole time I've been talking. And you guys can see the juice here, the separation on it. Move this one over. And so this is what the high-speed juicer does. And as you guys saw from the graphs here, it does some damage to the juice. This one looks a lot more appetizing to me, but still, many people still use a high-speed machine. So I would encourage you guys to get a low-speed machine. Of course, the high-speed machines have some benefits, but this is known as a centrifugal ejection style machine. Basically, you put the produce in to the machine here, and basically there's a fast spinning grate that basically grinds it up, and then the whatever's ground up is actually flung through the screen. The juice comes through the screen, and the pulp gets kicked out into this back hopper. And I'll show you guys the pulp here. Look at this pulp. It's just a lot of pulp, and I mean, it's like really wet and spongy. So you're literally wasting your tomatoes by juicing it in this juicer, because I mean, my hands are just totally wet, and there's totally a lot of juice still left in the pulp there. And so that's one of the reasons not to use this, especially if you want to juice leafy greens, which are one of the most important fruit and vegetables to get in you, the leafy greens. This machine does horrible with leafy greens. If I did leafy greens, we'll pull out whole pieces of leaves that did not get juiced, just like you didn't chew them well enough and they came out the other end of you. Meanwhile, over on the Omega VSJ, it's going to be a little bit tough to actually pull out some of the pulp here, because literally most of it went into the glass, but really the pulp here is just in my hand. I mean, it's a big difference here. Like this wet pulp that's like all gooey versus a nice and dry pulp. So I mean, most of the nutrients from the slow juicer went in the glass instead of in the pulp. And I mean, yeah, there's still some liquid in here, but and the seeds didn't get crushed in this instance, but it's done a lot better job. So that's why I like the slow juicers, because they run at a much slower RPM, tend to oxidize less, and in general tend to basically are more efficient at breaking open the fibrous cell walls to extract more nutrients, phytochemicals from the juice. And this is known as a vertical single auger machine. And how this one works a little bit different. In this one, there's this little auger here that basically spins around, and as you put the produce in, it basically grinds up whatever you put in, condenses it into a smaller and smaller space until it literally presses and squeezes the juice out. The juice comes out of the juicing screen in the front, and it is ejected here. And all the pulp, actually once it's dry, actually comes ejected here. Inside the machine, there's still some wet pulp that didn't actually get ejected, because I should have ran the machine longer and or put some carrots or something else hard in after it to eject it. And this is the vertical single auger. And this is my favorite style machine. because the vertical single auger pretty much will juice anything you throw at it. It'll juice things like the tomatoes, it'll juice things like the hard vegetables like the carrots, it'll juice things like celery, it'll also juice things that can be challenging to juice like the fruits. This is probably one of the best juicers to juice fruits to get a high yield out of. I mean, I've juiced even like, firm, not soft, papayas to make a really rich papaya juice that's nice and thick. Like if you put papayas in here, it'll basically just splatter it all and you'll make a little juice, but most of it will be like this wet tomato stuff. This machine will also juice the leafy greens significantly better than this one. It'll also juice wheatgrass and microgreens to some extent, provided you pre-cut them up and then alternate feed them with something like carrots. So pretty much this gives you the most versatility, and also for me it's the easiest one to use and clean. I timed myself the other day, I think I made like, I forget, 32 ounces of juice, and I was done within 15 minutes. Like from the time I actually had to wash the produce, cut it up, juice it, and then clean the juicer. Like this machine takes me about 4 minutes to clean, so it's relatively quick and efficient. The next style machine that I actually don't have here to demonstrate or show you guys is actually a horizontal single auger machine. So that's pretty much the same concept as this. The auger is running up and down on this one to make it vertical, and then the auger runs actually horizontally. And that style machine is a pretty popular model. The Omega 8006 is a really popular one. I like those because they're really good at juicing like wheatgrass and microgreens and leafy greens. If you're gonna do mostly those foods, that's the best machine. It'll juice carrots fairly well, but on the fruits it tends to back up and doesn't juice the fruits so well. And it's gonna kind of give you a headache if you try to juice fruits. I tried to juice pineapple in it once and it just backed up and made a mess. Meanwhile, I put pineapple to this and it works no problem. Those machines actually, depending on which one you use, can be very simple to clean, take me about half the time because there's less screen area to clean than this. But the juicing process is going to take longer because, yeah, as you guys saw earlier, I was able to just drop the tomatoes into this machine. It basically auto-fed, sucked them in, juiced them. On the other style machine, the horizontal machine, you literally got to take the pusher and push each and every produce item into the machine, which in my opinion is just a big hassle. Another style machine is actually the twin gear press. It actually has 2 gears, kind of like a transmission, grinding things up and pressing and squeezing things out. This is like the Green Star Elite machine. And this style machine actually is very efficient at juicing things like carrots and hard vegetables and beets and celery, as well as leafy greens. It's going to get probably the highest yield. This machine also takes some downward force, so you need to push each and every produce item in except for leafy greens. And even with carrots, you have to literally sit on the carrot to help push it into the gears to basically get it to grind up. So, for that reason, I don't like that style machine too much, but it gets high yields and also creates a high quality juice with probably the most amount of nutrition because they actually have done studies on that style. That machine takes me longer to clean than this style or the other style because there's just so many different parts you need to clean, so I don't particularly care for it too much. Of course, another style machine is actually a grinder and hydraulic press. That's the kind of machine they actually have in the back there. I don't know if I can see it from here, but basically it's a two-step. So you take the produce, you grind it up into a mush, you put it in a big press bag, then you put it between 2 hydraulic press plates that just come in and squeeze all the juice out. So this is another low RPM method. The cons with this machine is, for the home anyways, it's like a $2,500 juicer, which most people don't want to waste their money on. Also, in my opinion, it's old technology. This technology I think was maybe created in the 1930s, and since then juicing technology has gotten better, although that machine pretty much has stayed the same. The main drawbacks with that machine, I think, is, well, the main pros are actually the yield. You're going to get the highest yield using that style machine. The cons are you're probably going to leave nutrients behind in the pulp because the juice actually has to go through a press cloth, and the press cloth has really small holes. Kind of like, with this machine has actually really small holes the juice has to go through, and with the press cloth, you're leaving nutrients because if we juice pineapple in this machine versus a press, the pineapple juice would kind of look really dark and rich like this, and out of the press, it's going to be a lot more translucent and see-through, which means a lot of the phytochemicals are not making actually into the juice. Another thing I don't like is the first step of the hydraulic press is usually generally at a high speed where they're cutting the produce up. In some cases it can actually get warm and maybe start to degrade and also oxidize some of the nutrients in the juice. But yeah, there's different kinds of juicers out there. This is not necessarily a juicing talk per se, but I want to explain the different kinds and always encourage you guys to get something like a slow juicer because you're going to be able to maximize all the benefits that I shared with you guys earlier tonight. I guess the last thing I have is I have a few demonstration juicers actually in the car if anybody's interested in buying them at some really good blowout prices. So you guys can take a slow juicer home today. And let's see, I think we'll do questions, and then at the end of the questions we'll do the drawing for this juicer right here. So does anybody have any questions today?
Good stuff. Good stuff.
I have a question.
Yes.
I read recently it's a good thing to use the rind out of your oranges, your potatoes, and other things, incorporate them into your food process. Is that accurate?
Say that again, I didn't hear it.
To use the rind from the orange or your potatoes or your apples or in the outside skin, I guess.
Sure. So the question is, he's heard recently that it's good to include the outside skin of the produce you're using into your, into your preparations. So I would say, in general, yes, but there are exceptions. So potatoes are fine. Even like butternut squash are fine, apples, cantaloupes, watermelons, carrots, beets, all these could be juiced without peeling. But the exception is certain citrus fruits. So you could juice the rinds of lemons and limes, but on tangerines, oranges, and grapefruits, you may want to be a little bit careful and not include the outside coloring, but you will want to include the white pith. There's basically in the outside coloring of these certain citrus fruits, there's I think an element called D-limonene, and actually it could cause bad gas and bloating if we consume those. Not to say it's like poisonous, maybe in high doses it is, but it also tastes really nasty too. So you probably wouldn't want to use those items, but pretty much for most things that could be eaten raw, if you would eat the skin of potatoes, you could definitely juice it, and you should be using it because, as I mentioned earlier in the talk, a lot of the nutrients are actually in or near the skin.
John,
Yes.
What about the greens on the top of carrots?
Sure, so the question is, what about the greens on the top of the carrot? So, when I originally learned, and I learned about juicing from Jay Cordes, the juice man, he told me and educated me that the greens on the top of the carrots were not edible and not to use them. I have since learned that they actually are edible and good to use. There's no problems with juicing them. Now, once again, they probably have different phytonutrients and phytochemicals than the carrot. On the other hand, that's probably more of a bitter green, so it maybe doesn't taste the best, but it's probably good to include sometimes. And actually, I probably should include it because I like to talk about diversity, and I haven't eaten carrot top greens in quite a while myself. So yeah, so I don't know if I'd go crazy and just make a carrot juice green juice with just the carrot greens. That'd probably taste nasty. But yeah, of course, including a few carrot tops in with your other things to make it taste good, that'd probably be a really good idea.
And what about the sugar? When you juice and drink that, you get tons of sugar.
Ah, good point. So the question is, what about the sugar when you juice, because you get tons of sugar? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is if you guys are drinking any kind of soda or anything with processed white refined sugar, that has more sugar in it than a juice does, all right? Number two, as much as we're not really making more sugar than what was originally in the produce, we're just removing only one type of fiber, the insoluble fiber. We're keeping the soluble fiber in there, but more importantly than the soluble fiber we're also keeping some phytonutrients. So it's the soluble fiber that may help slow down the absorption of the sugar into our bloodstreams. Furthermore, they have determined that there are certain phytonutrients in the plant food, such as in apples, that actually slows down the absorption of the sugar into our bloodstreams as well. So we're keeping both those things when we're making juice. Now this goes for fresh made juice. I can't talk to processed juice in a can, and who knows what kind of filtration and what kind of processing and things they're doing to it, but I can't talk for this juice because you could see what actually happens. That being said, if you do have blood sugar sensitivities, I do encourage everybody to, not make juices with a lot of fruits in there. And in general, I definitely recommend it's better to juice things like vegetables than fruits and focus on the fruits or the vegetables that don't have a lot of sugar content. The thing also to remember is that, like they say, if sugar feeds cancer is a thing I've often heard. And that's totally true. But what also is true, like if you're drinking a carrot juice, right? A carrot juice, if I had cancer, I would still drink because the carrot juice has the anti-cancer nutrients in there and the sugar's in there. So what's going to happen? I'm going to drink the carrot juice with the sugar and the anti-cancer nutrients. My body's going to absorb it. It's going to circulate in my bloodstream. The cancer is going to say, oh, there's sugar in here. I'm going to suck it up. But at the same time, they're sucking up the anti-cancer nutrients in the carrot juice as well that's going to kill them. It's kind of like the Trojan horse effect. So that's kind of like my belief and my opinions about this topic, you know. And like on the Gerson therapy, you know, the Gerson therapy is a juice therapy. Use a slow juicer to make, and it's basically dominated with apples and carrots. Those are 2 high sugar foods, and they're feeding this with incurable people with cancer and all these other diseases, and they're getting better. So that's a part of the juicing program of the Gerson diet. Yes, apples and carrots. So that would be my answer to that. And also, you know, of course, I encourage everybody to listen to their own body and see what feels good and reacts good with them, right? Everybody's a little bit different, and you know, I tell you guys what I do, but you all need to figure out for yourselves, like, oh man, I drank the carrot juice and I don't feel so good. Well, hey, maybe you should juice celery and cucumbers and some beets instead, and maybe try to get away from some of the carrots. And of course, also, I would encourage everybody to, you know, drink carrot juice that aren't as sweet. You know, there's other colored carrots besides orange. Like I talked about the purple ones. There's also white ones and yellow ones and red ones, and some of them tend to be really lower in sugar. Some of them taste actually like dirt that I've tasted before, you know. So get your carrots without the sugar, you know, by growing them yourself or going to a farmer's market, because they can be fine just in the stores.
What do you think of bananas?
What do I think about bananas is the question. So number one, I do not recommend juicing bananas. They don't technically juice too well. You can put a banana through the juicer and it'll kind of like, you could maybe add some banana flavor, but it's pretty much a waste of the banana. But in general, I think, you know, bananas have been highly hybridized for the worst. The bananas that you'd actually buy at the store, to me, have no flavor. I got back from Florida the other day and brought back some really nice, like, heirloom bananas with me, and actually they tasted good. And in general, like, you know, I try to look at the plant foods I eat as per their nutrient density. So what this means is I kind of weigh out the amount of calories to the amount of phytonutrients and phytochemicals. So as we know, watercress and kale and collard greens have the most amount of phytonutrients and phytochemicals, the least amount of calories. And as for bananas, I mean, bananas are still healthier than a Snickers bar, you know, vegan cookie, vegan mock meats, you know, soda and all this stuff. But it tends to be pretty low on the phytonutrients per calorie because it is so high in calories. So, you know, if I was an athlete trying to like eat a lot of calories to do marathons and whatnot, that might be a good food choice for me. You know, but for me and my lifestyle, you know, I don't need a lot of calories. I want to minimize the calorie consumption I take and get most of the phytonutrients and phytochemicals. So, you know, bananas aren't the worst food. They're not the best. I would rather drink a carrot juice instead of eating bananas, especially some nice organic bunny love carrots that tend to taste sweeter than some of the bananas I've eaten. Yes?
I've heard like people with thyroid problems, kale, cruciferous vegetables is no good. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, so the question is, I've heard that people with thyroid problems, kale and other cruciferous vegetables are no good. So I do have a video that actually go into this in detail with a doctor friend of mine, Dr. Rick Dina, who's a chiropractor. And basically it's his thought that it's not really the problem of the kale and the collard greens that are causing thyroid problems or whatever. He's eaten like a head of cauliflower like each day for the last 10 years and has no thyroid issues himself. And he basically kind of gets more into that. But I think that certain people, of course, may be predisposed to anything, and certain foods may agitate any condition within you. I don't think there's anything necessarily inherently wrong with kale or collard greens. But that being said, you know, going back to I think number 9 was diversity. I don't want people to get into the habit of drinking kale and carrot juice every day because you could overdo it, as happened to some ladies in Northern California. They're like, kale, oh, it's the healthiest stuff. I'm going to make kale smoothies every day. So they made kale smoothies every day, and they had some kind of overdose of some kind of heavy metal toxicity because it was in the kale. And this could happen with anything you're eating. So I want to encourage everybody to rotate and go to Whole Foods or wherever you get your produce, or grow different produce items. To, you know, juice spinach today, juice kale tomorrow, juice bok choy the next day, juice some dandelions the next day. And always switch up all the juices you drink so that you'll get a plethora of phytochemicals and phytonutrients, but also reduce the amount of anti-nutrients in these plant foods as well. And these anti-nutrients, you know, can be anti-nutrients for us, but in some cases these very anti-nutrients are also the anti-disease properties in these foods as well.
Do Do you have a menu online or something like I see behind you and how to make different kinds of drinks? Or do you make up your own variety?
Sure. So the question is, do I have some kind of menu or recipe book online where I share all the different recipes I make? And you know, as much as I like recipes and stuff, like I really want to encourage people to come up with their own recipes and be creative and juice you know, things that they have, either like I juice what's in my garden or what I got on sale that week from the grocery store, and make juice combinations to go with that. So instead of teaching juice recipes, I like to teach juicing concepts so that people could come up with their own recipes. So one of these concepts is the easiest way to make a juice is to just juice one thing. So I have straight tomato juice. It's quite good. And many things can be just juiced straight, depending on what it is. I mean, I tend to do this with more fruits that you would eat straight. Like you probably wouldn't eat just kale straight because it'd be pretty strong and bitter. But you might eat just, you know, one cucumber, munching on a cucumber. You might be munching on an apple, munch on some cantaloupe. That's a very simple technique. The other thing I like to do is I like to always, you know, combine the minimal amount of vegetables and fruits as possible to make a juice that tastes good. Don't try to put like 20 things in a juice like some of the recipes they have here. And they got like maybe like a dozen different ingredients. Once you start adding a lot of ingredients, you really have a higher probability of making the juice taste bad unless you're experienced, right? So I tend to like to have juices less than, you know, 6 ingredients, 5 ingredients. I like to really have like 3 or 4 maybe, optimally, because that just really keeps it simple. The next thing is you want to have a balance of the right nutrients or the balance of the right fruits and vegetables in there. So when you're creating a vegetable juice, I have like a format that I use, much like if you're baking cookies. You know, if you're baking cookies, you got to use flour, you got to use eggs, unless you're vegan, then you use something else, and then you'd add the sugar, and then basically you know that's like a cookie recipe. And then if you want chocolate chip cookies, you'd use all those ingredients plus chocolate chips. Or if you're making peanut butter cookies, you'd use all those ingredients plus peanut butter. You know, you get my drift. So anyways, when I'm juicing, I'm going to use a standard format. And I'll use these standard vegetables as 3/4 of my glass of the juice will be one of these vegetables. Might be things like celery, might be things like cucumber, might be things like carrots, might be things like zucchini, might be things like apples, might be things like pears, might be things like romaine hearts. These might be things like jicama, another really good one to juice, nice and mild. These would make up 3/4 of my glass. Now, if you just juice those in any proportions, right, you're pretty much never going to make a juice that tastes nasty or tastes bad. Of course, you could always add more fruit. It'll make it taste more sweeter if you need that. And then the other, you know, 1/4 of the glass, that's where I'd put something like leafy greens or more hardcore vegetables. So kale, collard greens, spinach would be 1/4 of the glass, along with maybe like beets. I wouldn't use a lot of beets. I'd put some beets, maybe something like turmeric or ginger. You don't want to put a lot of those things in because that can make your juice go south or taste bad really quickly. So that's what I like to do, and I have a really good video that kind of goes more into these concepts about juicing on basically how to create your own juice recipes free forever. And you know, I think we're just taught more in our society, unfortunately, to follow my recipe, follow this, follow that. I want people to like come up to think about what they have on hand and what they could make in a juice, because that's what I do. I go out to my backyard and I got lots of like Napa cabbage this time of year, and I'm making juices with the Napa cabbage because that's what I got. And then in a couple weeks, maybe my collard greens and kale and things will come in, then I'll start juicing those. Maybe you don't have a garden to pick from like I do, that's all right. Go down to Sprouts Farmers Market or Whole Foods, wherever you guys are shopping, even to the dollar store, the 99 only stores, they have organic produce sometimes. And whatever they got on sale, guess what? That's what you're juicing this week, right? And then you're going to save money because you're not buying, I got to buy kale because kale's $3.99, but hey, the Swiss chard this week is 99 cents a bunch. Well, I'm juicing Swiss chard this week if I don't got to grow in my garden because it's cheaper. And then that way you're always going to rotate stuff because they're always putting different stuff on sale. And then you could come up with, you know, these ideas on how to make your own juices based on what you got growing or what you got on sale this week, right? So yeah, any other questions? Yes?
Why don't the sugar you mentioned about earlier, do you find yourself doing more of the fruits in the morning time and then grains at evening, less sugar in the evening?
Sure, so the question is regarding the sugar content. Do I find to juice more of my fruits in the morning and more of my vegetables in the evening. You know, it's rare that I'll ever juice fruits in the evening. And I try to juice mostly vegetables in the morning, except when I have so many ripe fruits that I need to use that's going bad that I need to juice them, or they're going to go bad. So lately I've had a lot of pineapples, like, because I got a really good deal on organic pineapples for like $1. I have to just use them all because they're going to go bad, so I'm juicing them. You know, I got a lot of cantaloupes for cheap, so I got to use those before they go bad, and to eat them because they're not really optimally ripe. They don't taste so good if I was to eat them. So when I juice them, at least they taste better than if I was just eating them, because I'm removing all the insoluble fiber. And so I would prefer to juice vegetables actually in the morning, and that's what I encourage people mostly to do. We should mostly be eating our fruits whole, in my opinion, especially, you know, most juicers don't juice fruits that well anyways. Of course, if you need some fruit juice in with your vegetables so that you could even just take them in and drink them, it's better to juice some fruits in there with your vegetables so you could actually at least get the vegetables in you, because that's better than not eating them at all. Yes? Sure. So the question is, which of the juicers gives you guys the most nutrients? And then which one, what do you do with the pulp? So the first part of the question is, what juicer gives the most nutrients? So this is a little bit challenging to come up with and to answer, because I only could go off like published studies that manufacturers have done. So, you know, I know that the company that makes the twin gear juicer, they've done studies where they compare the Norwalk, or a 2-stage press juicer, to their machine, as well as they compare a high-speed machine to their machine. And basically overall, not in all categories, but overall their machine produces a higher quality juice. So then they said, and then they've done studies where they juice and then they test their juice 72 hours after the fact, and it still has, you know, high levels of nutrients. So then other companies that make slow juicers see their data and say, oh, you could store juices with our juicer for up to 3 days. I'm like, well, where's the data that shows that? They're like, oh, the other company did that. Well, it's not the same extraction method, right? So if you want to be guaranteed the highest nutrient juice, I would tend to move towards that machine, because at least it has some kind of documented research on it. That being said, like, what do I think the difference is between that machine and this machine? Is it huge? Is it like the centrifugal juicer versus the slow juicer with our comparison chart? I would say no. And the other thing I would say, you know, I'd say it's pretty close, but I don't know the exact how much is different. And then the other thing to remember is that depending on the produce juiced, it may sway the chart a little bit, because some things could be juiced in a twin gear that's going to foam up more. So for example, if I juice straight kale in a twin gear, even though overall it makes the best juice, straight kale in the twin gear is going to produce a lot of foam, which is oxidation, which is oxidative damage to the juice you're making, because that machine doesn't like when you juice straight greens. It'll do it, and it does a good job at it, gets a fairly high yield, but gets a lot of foam. Whereas a horizontal auger juicer would not get the volume of foam, would not oxidize the juice as much in the creation of the juice. So for that situation, you know, a horizontal auger style machine might produce a higher quality juice when juicing straight leaves or straight wheatgrass, for example. But if you're juicing like wheatgrass and carrots, then the twin gear would be better, right? So it's really difficult to say, but overall what I will say is that you want to go with the slow juicer and one that you would use. So for example, if I had cancer or some other kind of major disease that I really had to fight, I would want to give myself every possible advantage, and I'd probably use the twin gear juicer that I have sitting on my shelf that just sits there unless I'm doing a juicer demonstration video with it, because it's a bear to use and to clean, and it takes me longer. And if I just only had that machine, I bought only that machine, every time I look at that machine on the counter, I'd be like, I'm not going to juice, that's a pain in the butt. And that's just me, and I mean, I'm already really motivated to do this stuff, but I'm not that motivated unless I maybe had further motivation, which I don't have. So for that reason, I'd rather juice with this, and it's super quick and easy. Going to get a high quality juice, maybe not the highest depending on what I'm juicing, but I'm willing to live with a high quality juice that's still going to get the benefits on this chart, because on this chart it shows this style machine, not the twin gear machine. So that's probably my best answer to that. And then as to what do I do with the pulp, right? You know, some people make crackers out of the pulp. You could add the pulp into baked goods. You could add the pulp into different soups and things like that. For me, like the pulp, I mean, what it's really rich in, yes, there's still some nutrients in there. The juicer is not effective at getting 100% of all the nutrients out of the pulp. If it did, the pulp would come out white or something and there'd be no color to it. Also, there's some seeds in there which are actually rich in fats, which are good in fats actually. But what I do with the pulp, mostly, to me, it's a waste product. Depending on the juicer, sometimes I'll take the pulp and like feed it back through the machine to kind of get more juice out of it. Like if I fed this pulp through the machine on here, I would definitely get more juice out of it. Sometimes I might get anal, so like if I juice peppers from my garden that I have a limited supply of, I'll actually juice it, I'll get the pulp out, and then I'll mix some coconut water in with the pulp really good with a blender or with my hand, and then I'll take this mixture and pour it back through the juicer. It'll basically extract a coconut water, you know, light pepper juice. It'll get more nutrients out of the pulp because I don't want to throw that pulp away, and then I'll take that and drink it the next morning or that night instead of my coconut water. So it's basically coconut water infused with some extra nutrients. If it's not stuff that I grew and I don't really care about, basically the pulp just goes in my compost bin. You can feed worms. I feed my compost bin, which basically feeds the bacteria in my composters that then break that pulp down into nutrients to feed my garden soil, which in turn then feeds me. So that's what, and people use pulp to like put on their face and all these things to tone your skin. I mean, there's so many different uses. I kind of think of it mostly as a waste end product that I've gotten most of the nutrition out of that I don't really need. I mean, if you're somebody that eats all animal products in the day and you don't get a lot of fiber, it might be a good thing to eat that. But you know, instead of eating tomato pulp, I'd rather just eat whole cut of tomatoes on my salads to get the nutrients and the fiber instead of just the fiber or what's left in the pulp. So I don't see a huge benefit to the pulp personally. But of course, some people like to pinch pennies and use every little thing, and that's cool. I kind of like to live more in abundance mentality myself and like, oh, I've got most of the nutrients out of it, you know, let's pass that on to my microbes and feed my garden. Yeah, Chef Keaty.
Having a great time. I want to ask this question of the second slowest eating man in Las Vegas. And we still know who the slowest is. We know him right up there. But when people juice and when they do smoothies, they have a tendency that the food passes through their mouth too fast, right into the stomach, without getting the saliva-based enzyme. Talk to us about why it's necessary to wet up your food with saliva.
Thank you for bringing that forward, Chef Keaty, because I did not mention it in my talk, and it actually is quite essential. So thank you. So what Chef Keaty was talking about was basically is I like to chew my food really well, and I encourage everybody to chew their food really well. We're given teeth so that we can actually chew up our food into a mush. This is why we give babies baby food. They do not have teeth to chew everything up into a mush, so we should chew up everything into a mush, not only for mechanical action, not only to turn it into a mush to extract all the liquid so our villi can get the extract the nutrients out of it, because we swallow a whole piece of carrots, it's going to go right through us and out the other end without getting the nutrition. But more importantly, digestion starts in the mouth. We want to mix our salivary amylase plus our brain. Once we start chewing, it kind of like starts to turn on, you know, our intestines to kind of get in the digestion mode, and it helps to start digest our food. So whether you're eating food whole, chewing it into a mush, or whether you blend it or juice it where it is already more in a mush-like state without having to chew it yourself, you should do as Jay Cordich, the juice man, taught me, chew your juice. You know, when I'm gonna take this juice, I'm not just gonna, oh man, this juice is nasty, I don't know, I put like 20 things in there, I gotta glug it down and get in me. You know, that's still gonna be better than not drinking it at all, but it'd be better just to, you know, drink it, swish it around your mouth even longer than I did just now. Let it go throughout your mouth, let it mix with some saliva, and then, you know, take your time and swallow, and don't just glug it down. You're gonna get much better digestion out of it. And actually, that may be a reason why sometimes you get, you know, maybe ill effects from drinking juices, maybe a blood sugar response, because you're just glugging it down, and your body's, number one, not ready to accept food, because normally we'd have to start chewing for a while before we'd start to, you know, swallow it. And also we're mixing our salivary amylase or enzymes with the juice as well. So yeah, it's very critical. I encourage everybody to chew anything that goes into your mouth. Yes?
One last thing that I was just thinking about is how long, you brought this up about keeping it 3 days, so how long should you keep it if you drink it right away?
Okay, so the question is, how long can you store your juices? So this juice I just got here that they make with the cold press is dated 12/19. So I think here by health department code, they could save it for up to 7 days, but they don't even do that. I think they keep it maybe only up to 4 days. And that's in their juice bar, processed at a slow speed where they're sanitizing their produce. So for health department reasons, 7 days is probably like the max you should ever store anything. That being said, I don't even like to do that myself. I don't like to actually personally store juices myself, but in some cases I'm just juicing large batches because it's easy and more convenient for me instead of getting out my juicer a couple times and all this stuff. So for me personally, I don't like to store my juices more than 3 days max. That being said, I prefer to juice only as much as I need for that time period. That being said, more optimally, I don't like to store my juices for more than 24 hours. Now the reason for this is because there are certain valuable phytonutrients and phytochemicals in the juices that may dissipate as the juice sits. This can be enhanced by maybe actually adding back in some of the extra fiber in there to keep some of the bacteria and whatever happy, feeding them. I could just relate this to a story that I learned from Jay Cordich, the juice man. He was working with Dr. Garnett Cheney at I think it was Stanford or something, and healing inmates with ulcers. And he would actually, I think he was using a high-speed machine, and he used a high-speed machine, and he would basically make the juice. And if he didn't feed the juice to these patients with the ulcers immediately, they did not get the beneficial effects of the ulcer reduction if they stored the juice. I mean, of course, once again, this was made with a slow juice, and this is what happens with slow juice. So I'd recommend, if you guys do have a slow juice, don't make batches. Drink it right after. If you have on a fast juicer, sorry. If you have a slow juicer, then it might be better to store it. But still, I recommend drinking it as soon as you're making it, because once you break open the fibrous cell walls, you're exposing all the nutrients to oxidation and air and damage. So we want to increase these nutrients to the best of our ability by making the juice and drinking it right after it's made.
Because many of them will change the flavor.
Yes, plus the flavor will also change too. It might get, tasting stronger and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, of course the chef is going to know all that stuff. I'm just a guy that juices my stuff and drinks it. Yes.
Question, I juice a lot of pineapples, and I tend, when I'm juicing a lot for that session, I'll bring out the horizontal juicer to do the pores. How well does the VSJ do the pores compared to the VRT, compared to the VSJ?
I see, sure. So the question is regarding juicing pineapples. Pineapples are relatively easy to juice in a slow juicer, except for the core that has the long fibrous strands that can get caught in the juicer. So the question was, between this juicer and its predecessor, how much better does this machine handle the core than the model before this? So I would say it definitely handles it better. Am I gonna say it's the best? No. So with the core, basically, if you're looking down on the top of the pineapple, I'll cut it into a tic-tac-toe pattern, and I'll keep the core at the end. I'll juice all the pieces first. It's also best to select firm pineapples instead of mushy ones to juice in any juicer, and select firm fruits overall. But once I got the core left, I'll basically take the core, and it's sitting there like a little log. I don't have anything I can demonstrate, but I cut it longwise, and then I flip it to the next side, and then I cut it longwise again. So now I created long sticks. And then I take the knife, and then I cut those sticks into small little cubes. So this way I've broken up the most amount of fibers, and then I'll just feed those through the machine. And then on this machine, it ejects all that stuff, comes out generally. It doesn't generally clog up. And whereas on the previous model, that would still probably tend to clog it up.
You do still cut it though in the VSJ?
Absolutely, that'll help a lot, but it still clog up. The main difference is because this new model here, on the bottom of the screen, it just has a circle, and all the pulp basically goes down to the bottom of the screen and then is forced out the hole. On the VSJ and other slow juicers, it has a little hole in the bottom of the screen that all the pulp has to go through 2 holes before it's ejected, and that causes a log jam or a pineapple core jam in many juicers. So in a lot of those juices, I would only be able to maybe juice 1 pineapple before, even with my best techniques, it would jam. With this one, I've done 2, and if you're juicing pineapple with other things like carrots, then I could basically go on infinitely, or pineapple and celery. I could go on infinitely because you're alternate feeding all the different things, and it continues to push all the stuff through.
Let me ask you one more question about that. I love the iOmega. I had the iOmega birth, and and it was wonderful. But at that time, the cup that it strains through, they had a problem. They were cracking. Did they ever resolve that? Did you ever have running?
So did you have the juicing screen that was white?
The white one, that was the early.
Yeah, so that was the first version. Yeah, so since the original Omega VRT330 came out with a white screen, they've improved the screen material to the Ultim material, which is 8 times stronger than the original plastic. So that has been resolved significantly. I'm not going to say that you'll never crack a screen on this. You know, on rare instance, if you're improperly using the juicer and whatnot, it'll still crack. But pretty much that's pretty much a fixed issue at this point.
It's a wonderful procedure.
Any final questions today?
I cracked my screen on the kuvings with prickly hairs. Like, you know, was that something the warranty will cover because I choose? Should they tell them I choose prickly hairs?
Yeah.
The
So.
seeds, like, you know, the screen started to come apart from the plastic.
Yeah.
And
So
then because of that, when it turned.
Right. So the question is, he broke a screen on his kuvings juicer, slow juicer. Was it a whole slow juicer? Wow. With the cactus fruit seeds, should he tell the manufacturer that he broke it juicing that? I mean, I don't know what the manufacturer's going to say, but I could say what I would do. Like, I think they should honor the warranty in that situation because I've juiced cactus fruits in that machine and it works no problem. Now, if you did the same cactus fruit thing with the slow start juicer, in my opinion, they should not honor the warranty because that machine, you will break the screen if you use cactus fruit in there because it actually grinds up the seeds into a sawdust because it's so good at grinding, which is good but then bad. So I think they should honor it. It's up to you whether you want to tell them you use cactus fruits or not, or you're juicing carrots, which they should definitely honor. Did you get the juicer from me?
No.
I see. If you got it from me, I would have definitely been able to help you out either way, but it's all good. All right, any final questions?
As far as juices are concerned, how do you compare the Green Star, the latest one, Twin Gear versus Omega's Twin Gears?
Yeah, that's a good question. So how do you compare the Green Star Elite to the Omega Twin Gear TWN30? So I think I actually have a video on that if you want to look it up, where I juiced in both machines. But like I've seen on my personal machine, like even though I haven't even used it because it pretty much sits on the shelf unless I'm doing a video with it, it's like worn some of the plastic on that the gears seat into. So it's kind of worn that. I mean, it's a strong juicer, and actually I just learned that it was actually certified for commercial use. But it's worn the gear, it's worn the plastic down. Plus, it doesn't have the magnetics and far infrared technology, which in my opinion is a good thing to have because that it's better structures the juice and probably allows it to save and keep more of the nutrients longer. I mean, I just see the machine as more of a solid investment, solid machine that's going to last longer. The parts on the Green Star Elite are also made out of a nylon material that's as much more durable than maybe the more brittle plastic on the Omega.
Now, I do a lot of wheatgrass and barley grass. I got Omega right now.
Which one?
Single auger, 8,000.
Sure.
Do you think I should, while I do yield some type of barley grass, wheatgrass on Elite?
No. I recommend for barley grass and wheatgrass, keep your single auger. It's a better machine than the Elite. If you just try to, as I talked a little bit earlier, if you try to do straight wheatgrass or barley grass in the Elite, it's definitely going to be cool because you just drop it in, it sucks it in. But the problem is it also will cause a lot of aeration due to the juicing process. The yield may be more after the foam that is created melts back into juice because the foam is aerated juice, but you're oxidizing the juice more in my opinion. Now, if you said, John, I'm going to juice wheatgrass and barley grass and alternate feed with carrots, then I might recommend the Green Star Elite because if you alternate with carrots, the carrot pulp is going to fill all the spaces in the auger that would normally cause the wheatgrass juice to foam. The other thing too is that the Green Star Elite is also more difficult to clean. So, you know, I mean, each person's a little bit different. If it was me, I wouldn't, even though they say it's the best and all this kind of stuff, I wouldn't necessarily spend my money on that machine because it's a lot of money. I'd use that money to grow a garden or something first.
The Omega that you said is so strong it's wearing out the gears. If you prepped it properly, would you be able to juice sugarcane in it? I mean, would it be effective at
No, so I do not recommend using any home juicer for sugarcane. I'm going to still be testing some. There's a guy that actually juices sugarcane in a Breville, which I really think is a really bad idea because you're oxidizing a lot of valuable phytonutrients in the sugarcane. I'm going to be testing soon, like using some of my juicers with sugarcane that's been properly prepped. So stay tuned for a video on that. I may or may not break one of my juicers, but I get free parts. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's. I mean, I recommend at this point getting an inexpensive sugarcane juicer. It's like $350, and they're hand crank. So what did you guys think? Did you like my talk here at Press for Juice? Hey, if you guys like this format with a long format with just me giving a talk and some Q&A, hey, please be sure to give me a thumbs up to let me know. I'll be sure to do more episodes and put these guys online for you guys so you guys can learn more about the power of the fresh fruits and vegetables and the juicing. Also, I want to encourage you guys, if you guys enjoyed this talk, please support me and my work by making your purchase at discountjuicers.com. This allows me to continue to do like educational work and make all the videos that I do and put online for you guys. So I want to thank you guys in advance for those of you guys that will purchase from me, and I want to thank you guys that have purchased from me in the past. Also, be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 400 episodes on this YouTube channel comparing all the different juicers side by side so you guys can get the right and the best juicer for you. And finally, be sure to click that subscribe button down below because you never know the episode or what you'll be missing if you don't subscribe. I put out videos every 5 to 7 days on this YouTube channel educating you guys about the latest health appliances that allow you to get more fresh fruits and vegetables in you. So with that, my name is John Kohler with discountjuicers.com. Be sure to visit discountjuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for YouTube visitors. All right, this is John Kohler with discountjuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and I know a lot of you guys watching this video right now might be in the market for a juicer. You're shopping for a juicer and you want to get the best one, and thank God you found my videos because I am the juicing expert that's going to share with you guys and show you guys actually in the videos